Daniel Harper lived in a small, old house with his teenage daughter, Emily. He worked hard as a handyman, fixing roofs and doing odd jobs to take care of her. Life was tough, but Daniel always taught Emily to be kind and brave. "You don't need money to be rich," he often told her. "Being kind is what really matters." One evening, after finishing work, Daniel drove home on a quiet road. Near a bend, he saw flashing lights. A car had crashed into a tree, smoke rising from it. Without thinking twice, Daniel stopped to help. The scene was scary. Flames were coming out of the car, and thick smoke filled the air. A young woman inside screamed for help, stuck in her seatbelt. People stood far away, too afraid to go near. Firefighters tried to put out the fire, but they shouted warnings to stay back because it was dangerous. Daniel didn't hesitate. He grabbed a crowbar from his truck and ran toward the burning car. The heat burned his skin, but he didn't stop. Using the crowbar, he forced open the crumpled door. Inside, the woman looked weak and scared. Her face was dirty, and she could barely move. "Help me," she cried softly. "I've got you," Daniel said firmly. He unbuckled her seatbelt and carefully pulled her out. Just moments later, the car exploded behind them. The blast knocked Daniel down, but he made sure the woman was safe. People cheered as paramedics rushed to help. Wrapped in a blanket, the woman held onto Daniel's arm. "Thank you," she whispered. "You saved my life." "It's nothing," Daniel replied. "Anyone would have done the same." Before she could ask his name, paramedics took her to an ambulance. Daniel quietly walked back to his truck. He wasn't looking for thanks, he just wanted to help. When he got home, Emily was waiting. "Dad, are you okay?" she asked, seeing the dirt and burns on his hands. "I'm fine," Daniel said. "I helped someone in trouble." What Daniel didn't know was that the woman he saved was Sophia Langston, the daughter of a billionaire named Richard Langston. That night, Sophia called her father, crying as she told him what happened. "We need to find this man," Richard said. "He saved my daughter's life." Unaware of what was coming, Daniel went to bed thinking nothing more of it. To him, it was just another act of kindness. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the cracks in Daniel's old curtains. He woke up tired but content, thinking about how he'd helped the woman last night. Life went on as usual. Emily left for school, and Daniel prepared to head to work. But just as he stepped outside, he froze. A sleek black car pulled into his driveway, followed by two more. Out stepped a tall man in an expensive suit, his face serious but kind. Behind him were several people carrying briefcases and notebooks. Neighbors peeked out of their windows, curious about the unusual visitors. "Are you Daniel Harper?" the man asked, his voice calm but full of authority. "Yes, that's me," Daniel replied, confused. "Can I help you?" The man smiled warmly. "My name is Richard Langston. You saved my daughter's life last night." Daniel blinked, surprised. "Your daughter?" "Oh, the woman in the car. I just did what anyone would have done." Richard shook his head firmly. "No, not everyone would risk their life like that. You're a brave man, Mr. Harper, and I'm here to thank you properly." Before Daniel could respond, Richard gestured to his team. They began unloading boxes filled with food, clothes, and other supplies. "This is just a small token of our gratitude," Richard said. "But it's not enough. Please, tell me how I can repay you." Daniel raised his hands, feeling overwhelmed. "You don't need to do this. Really, I didn't help your daughter for rewards." Richard nodded, respecting Daniel's humility. "I understand, but let me explain something. My daughter means everything to me. If she hadn't been saved, I don't know what I would have done. You gave her back to me. That's priceless." He paused, then added, "Tell me about your life. What do you need? What are your dreams?" Daniel hesitated. "I just want a better future for my daughter, Emily. She dreams of becoming a doctor, but we can't afford school fees. Other than that, we're fine." Richard's eyes softened. "Then consider it done. I'll cover all her education costs, school, college, everything. And if there's anything else you or your community needs, please let me know." Daniel was speechless. Tears welled up in his eyes as he thought about Emily's dream finally coming true. "Thank you," he managed to say. "This means the world to us." Richard smiled. "No, thank you. You've reminded me of what really matters. Kindness, courage, and family." As the cars drove away, Daniel stood in his driveway, staring at the boxes of supplies. Neighbors came over to congratulate him, amazed by what had happened. For the first time in years, Daniel felt hope, not just for himself, but for Emily's future. That evening, when Emily came home from school, Daniel sat her down. "Remember how I always told you kindness matters?" he asked. She nodded. "Yeah, why?" "Well," Daniel said, smiling, "it turns out being kind can change lives, including ours." The days following Richard's visit were a blur for Daniel and Emily. News of the billionaire's generosity spread quickly through their small town. Neighbors who once exchanged polite nods now stopped by to congratulate them, while local newspapers wrote stories about the hero handyman who saved a billionaire's daughter. At first, Daniel felt uneasy with all the attention. He wasn't used to being in the spotlight and worried people might think he'd helped Sophia just for rewards. But Emily reminded him of something important. "Dad, this isn't just about us anymore. Think about how many people we can help because of this." Her words stuck with Daniel. Over dinner that night, they talked about how to use Richard's generosity wisely, not just for themselves but for others too. They decided to start small, sharing the supplies Richard had sent with families in need. Soon, neighbors joined in, donating clothes, food, and other essentials to create a community pantry. But the biggest change came when Richard kept his promise. Within weeks, Emily was enrolled in a top school, her tuition fully paid. She threw herself into her studies, determined to make the most of the opportunity. Meanwhile, Daniel began receiving offers for better-paying jobs from companies connected to Richard. Though tempted, Daniel chose to stay in his community, knowing he could still make a difference where he was. Richard stayed involved, checking in regularly to see how things were going. During one visit, he surprised Daniel with another gift, a brand new truck. "You deserve it," Richard said simply. "That old truck of yours has seen better days." Daniel protested at first, but Richard insisted. "Think of it as a tool to help more people. You're doing amazing work here." With the new truck, Daniel started offering free repair workshops for struggling families. He taught skills like fixing cars, painting walls, and repairing appliances, things that could save people money and give them independence. Many of these families couldn't afford professional repairs, and Daniel's workshops became a lifeline. Word of his kindness spread beyond the town. People from nearby villages began showing up, eager to learn. Even kids joined in, fascinated by Daniel's tools and stories. One boy, Tommy, often stayed late, asking questions and helping clean up. "I want to be like you when I grow up," Tommy said one evening. Daniel smiled, ruffling the boy's hair. "You already are. Just keep helping others, no matter how small the act." As months passed, the ripple effect of Daniel's actions grew. Families who benefited from his workshops began volunteering their time to help others. Local businesses donated tools and materials to support the cause. And Emily, inspired by her father's example, organized fundraisers to build a community center where Daniel could hold his workshops year-round. Through it all, Daniel remained humble. To him, none of this was about fame or wealth, it was about using what he'd been given to uplift others. "I didn't do anything special," he often said. "I just helped someone in need. That's all any of us can do." Richard visited again during the grand opening of the community center. Standing beside Daniel, he addressed the crowd. "When I met Daniel, I thought I was the one giving back. But he taught me something far more valuable, that true wealth is measured in kindness and connection. Together, we've built something extraordinary." As fireworks lit up the sky that night, Daniel looked out at the smiling faces around him. He realized this was only the beginning. His simple act of courage had sparked something greater than he ever imagined, a movement fueled by compassion and unity. Little did Daniel know, his story would continue inspiring others far beyond his small town. Daniel's story quickly became more than just a local tale. It sparked a chain reaction of kindness that reached far beyond his town. Inspired by his free repair workshops and community center, people began finding their own ways to give back. What started as one man's simple act of bravery had grown into a movement, proving that even the smallest gestures could create waves of positive change. One of the most impactful initiatives was the Helping Hands Network, launched by a group of volunteers who'd been inspired by Daniel's work. The program connected skilled workers, carpenters, plumbers, electricians, and mechanics, with families in need. Whether it was fixing a leaky roof, repairing a broken fridge, or tuning up a car, these efforts brought the community closer together. Daniel played an active role in expanding the program, using his connections to recruit more volunteers. He often said, "If I can fix a car, someone else can fix a sink. And together, we can make life better for everyone." The program gained so much traction that Richard stepped in to provide additional funding and resources. His company helped establish training centers where unemployed individuals could learn valuable skills, empowering them to contribute to the growing network of helpers. For many, this was a lifeline, a chance to rebuild not just their lives, but also their confidence. Meanwhile, Emily thrived under the opportunities Richard had provided. Her dream of becoming a doctor grew stronger with each passing year. She excelled in school, earning top grades and scholarships. But what made Daniel proudest was how she used her success to help others. During holidays, she volunteered at clinics, offering free health checkups to families who couldn't afford medical care. Inspired by her father's example, Emily also started a mentorship program for kids interested in science and medicine. "I wouldn't be here without my dad," she often said. "So if I can help even one kid follow their dreams, it'll be worth it." Even skeptics were won over. Some initially questioned Richard's motives, wondering if his generosity came with strings attached. But when they saw how Daniel used his gifts to benefit others, not just himself, they realized the purity of his intentions. This trust encouraged more people to join the movement, knowing their contributions would be put to good use. One day, during a community event celebrating the expansion of the Helping Hands Network, Richard made another surprise appearance. Standing beside Daniel on stage, he addressed the crowd. "When I met Daniel, I thought I was the one giving back. But he taught me something far more valuable, that true leadership means lifting others up. Together, we've created something extraordinary." As fireworks lit up the night sky, Daniel looked out at the sea of smiling faces. Children ran around with balloons shaped like wrenches and cars, while adults exchanged stories of how the program had changed their lives. It was a moment of pure joy, one that reminded him why he'd started this journey in the first place. But Daniel knew the work wasn't done. There were still countless communities in need, countless lives waiting to be transformed. With Richard's continued support and the growing army of volunteers, he vowed to keep pushing forward, to inspire others to believe in the power of kindness. Little did he realize, his legacy was already spreading far beyond what he could see. People across the country were sharing his story, starting their own versions of Helping Hands, and proving that compassion knew no bounds. And through it all, Daniel stayed true to himself, a humble handyman who believed in the goodness of people and the endless possibilities of paying it forward. Years later, Daniel stood on a stage in front of thousands at the annual Kindness in Action Gala, a nationwide event celebrating acts of generosity and community service. The room buzzed with energy as volunteers, donors, and beneficiaries gathered to honor those who had made a difference. But for Daniel, the moment wasn't about applause or recognition. It was about gratitude. "I never thought helping someone trapped in a car would lead me here," he began, his voice steady but warm. "I just knew it was the right thing to do." His words resonated deeply with the audience. Many had followed his journey from the beginning, a handyman who chose kindness over indifference, sparking a movement that touched countless lives. Now, he was no longer just a symbol of generosity. He was a leader, an advocate, and a role model. Daniel went on to share stories of those whose lives had been transformed by the Helping Hands Network and other initiatives inspired by his work. There was Maria, a single mother who'd received free car repairs, allowing her to keep her job and support her children. And Jake, a teenager who'd learned mechanics through Daniel's workshops and gone on to start his own business. Each story was a testament to the ripple effect of compassion and determination. But Daniel didn't stop there. He used his platform to call for broader change. "We've made incredible progress," he said, "but there's still so much work to do. Every day, people struggle with challenges we can't even imagine. Together, we can fix that." His speech ended with thunderous applause, but Daniel's focus remained on action rather than praise. He continued advocating for systemic reforms, pushing for affordable training programs, accessible transportation solutions, and sustainable community projects. His efforts inspired lawmakers to draft legislation aimed at supporting underserved populations, ensuring lasting impact. Meanwhile, Richard watched proudly from the sidelines. What had started as a simple act of gratitude had grown into something far greater, a legacy of hope and unity. He often joked that Daniel had changed his life as much as he'd changed others. Through him, Richard rediscovered the joy of giving back and learned that true wealth lay not in possessions, but in connection. For Daniel, success wasn't measured by awards or headlines. It was reflected in the smiles of families driving away in repaired cars, the laughter of kids learning new skills, and the strength of communities coming together to support one another. He carried his values with him every step of the way, proving that doing the right thing could create waves of positive change. One evening, as Daniel walked through the garage where it all began, he paused beneath a string of lights hung years ago. He thought about the man he'd once been, the one who'd simply wanted to help someone in need, and smiled. That decision had opened doors he never dreamed possible, not just for himself, but for countless others. A young boy approached him, holding out a handmade card. "Thank you for showing me I can help too," he said shyly. Daniel grinned, placing a hand on the boy's shoulder. "You already are helping, and you'll inspire others, just like you've inspired me." As the years passed, Daniel's legacy continued to expand. Families who had received help began volunteering themselves, creating a cycle of generosity that strengthened entire communities. People who once felt invisible now felt valued and empowered to make a difference in their own right. Little did Daniel realize, his journey was far from over. His simple act of courage had ignited a movement, one that would continue inspiring countless lives for generations to come. If this story inspired you, don't forget to share it with friends and family. Let us know in the comments. How has kindness impacted your life? Your stories inspire us to keep creating tales that matter,